Crypto's crashing again. So what does this mean for altcoins this time? Is it really over? Are we going to see another bounce? Who really knows for sure? But I do have a couple of interesting things here today that I did want to talk to you about, and just to keep some perspective of kind of what we have coming on and going into the future. So let's go ahead. We've got so much to look into today. So let's go ahead. We'll check out all the different things. So first off, as you can see here, actually a pretty substantial sell-off coming in here. We could see Ethereum down almost 5%. We could see, a lot of the alts, Solana down 6%. We've got things like BNB even down, which BNB's done quite well. Bitcoin's down 3%. We're seeing a lot of alts down, I would say probably within like the 7 to 10% range. So I mean a pretty aggressive sell-off. A lot of the ones we like to talk about here, ICP down almost 7%. Kaspa actually down over 10% here. You can also see Virtual's down 10%. XPL down 16%. Aster down 12%. I mean, just a lot of selling off going on here today. And we also can see the week still do have a couple of greens here on the week, but definitely basically fully red on the day, and a decent chunk of red even here on the week as well. So there's a couple of different things here. So if we look at the total crypto market cap, we can see this is total 3, which is just like essentially all altcoins. So the total market cap of altcoins, we can see actually like a pretty aggressive move to the downside here. Now, unfortunately, like we had been holding above the $1 trillion mark. We've just broken through that to the downside, which kind of sucks. Ideally, we'll look to hold kind of at the 950 billion like we have over the past couple of times. You can see we have had some higher lows coming in as well as some higher highs. So best case scenario would be kind of another higher low coming in, so we could continue this uptrend kind of on the shorter term. Now, if we look at the total market cap, now this is including everything, including Bitcoin and Ethereum, you will see we're about 3.6 or just under $3.6 trillion. Again, a similar type of structure starting to take place here as well, with hopefully higher lows coming in and then higher highs coming in here as well. So the really big thing that we need to see happening is really we can't really fall too much further from here on the total market cap. On the total 3 market cap, we can fall a decent bit more, I guess decent being relative in crypto, but we get, follow a little bit more, but there's really not much room left on the total market cap. So we'll have to see kind of what exactly happens from here. But the biggest thing that I'm looking at is just kind of, can we see a lot of this structure? If you look here over the past, what is this? Basically, we'll just pull forward a little bit. This is all of 2025. We are up on the year still. We've seen a pretty nice move to the upside. We've seen some consolidations very, very close to the top here. So I don't really feel too bad about where we're sitting. We do need to hold these levels. So that's what I'm going to be keeping a very, very close eye on. Now, if we look another day, another $1 billion liquidated here in crypto, which is just absolutely insane. We can see almost $1 billion in longs liquidated. This is essentially it's like liquidating and catching some of those wicks on some of the over aggressive long traders that were primarily piled in on Bitcoin and Ethereum. You could see also a decent bit on Solana, XRP, Pump, Athena, but basically, kind of the big 3 is what you would expect here, and that is what we have gotten. Now, if we go ahead and we look at the liquidation map, you will see a couple of different, couple interesting things. Now, we have talked about that longs kind of on the macro scale are still kind of next up, and we should see price move back to the upside, but there was a lot of leverage piling into longs that, and now we need to go, start to move back to shorts. Now, if you look on the daily, you will see that most of the longs have been wiped out. We do have some kind of piling in as we start to move back up in price. But again, there is always that possibility, another $1 billion that could be liquidated if we get down to that 106,000 range. So I do think that is a possibility for sure. But then if you see, even going up to about the 112,000 range, we have lots of shorts in here as well. So I do think that, we'll probably see a move back to the upside here. Again, if you look at the 7-day, you'll see something similar, even more skewed than what we see out of the 1-day. But again, still all about $1 billion here at the $106,000 range. So we could see kind of that further flush back down to the 106, maybe even like $105,500, and then we maybe see that push back to the upside. Same thing on the 30-day. very skewed here, over $20 billion to be liquidated if we move back to the upside here. So, but again, still a bunch of money, really close here. $4 billion if we go back down to about 105,500. So be very careful. Understand that there is that possibility that we do see a kind of maybe a quick flush back to the downside, and then that would basically clear out almost all of the longs that we do see in here, and then we'd need to see a move back to the upside. So in my opinion, again, if you've been following the channel, this has been a very reliable chart to follow just historically. We don't know exactly when, we don't know exactly how low it's going to go before we see things turn around, but when we have confluence in all of these, it generally means that price action is soon to follow. So that is what I'm going to be following very closely. Now, of course, if you are interested, you can hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you do stay up to date with all the videos that we do come out with, so you can track kind of, how this ends up going. Now, I'm pretty confident that we'll see it happen, but again, it is crypto. You just never know for sure. You also can see, if we look at the Twitter timeline, I'm not making this up. This is like some of the first things that I saw. You'll see the first one here, Fed to end QT and reinvest into T-bills from December 1 after a 25 basis point cut. In 2019, Bitcoin fell 35% after QT ended. Does more T-bill reinvestment help or hurt this time? That's the first one. Again, for those of you who are not read up on it, the Fed is ending QT, and then they are also doing that 25 basis point rate cut. Generally, you would expect that to be a pretty good thing for crypto, but we are seeing a bunch of selling off going on into this news, which is, I think, a lot of people are seeing it as manipulation. But if you look at the Twitter timeline, here's the next one. Every time Bitcoin rejects this line, it dumps 70%. What if that's happening again now? Hope you're ready for Bitcoin at 40,000. Next one. Oh no, this is actually good news from Plume. And then you can see here, crypto update, and then it's just with just down only going. So there's a lot of different stuff going on here, showing that people are just consistently like fudding the charts, and people are expecting Bitcoin to go down, and they're expecting crypto to get collapsed. They're expecting all of this type of stuff to happen. But if you look here, well, that's not what the liquidation charts are saying. Obviously, there's a lot of people expecting it, which means we will probably be moving in the opposite direction. So that is what I personally am going to be taking a very close look at. I also want to go and just do a quick look at the Bitcoin chart as well, because you'll see something pretty important happening here, very similar to what we've seen from some of the other stuff. Now, you'll see we are getting very close to putting in that higher low here. If we can hold this 107,000 level, this 107,000 level has been a reliable kind of swing low in the past. You can see it happened here, you can see it kind of roughly happened here, and it got close-ish, not really, I guess, here, but you'll see that like this has been one that has held before. So I personally am going to be looking very closely for this to actually hold up here, and then we could see that bounce coming in. Again, if we do see that, higher lows continue to come in, higher highs could potentially be back on the menu as well. Now, you'll see here we did come to the top of this descending channel. We did get wicked out several times, and then if you're following the descending channel of kind of what usually happens with Bitcoin, this sell-off and this dump down was probably not much of a surprise to you, to be completely honest. Now, I do think that we might see a little bit of a bounce here just from some of the structure that we're seeing, but keep in mind on the fact that we could go lower here. There, anything as low as 100,000, even coming down below 100,000 is in play if we do stay in this descending channel. So I'm going to be watching very closely. Currently, I think we're probably going to see a little bit more of a run to the upside, just because I do think this is some level of manipulation based off of some, kind of inflated expectations, frankly, based off of the Fed news. We haven't seen, some of that pump happen that maybe some people were expecting with rate cuts and QT ending and all that type of stuff. This stuff is generally good for crypto and for Bitcoin. People are going to start moving further out on the risk curve as rates continue to get cut, but we got to be patient. Things don't happen overnight, and I think people were expecting things all of a sudden to magically happen overnight, which is why we are seeing a little bit of this sell-off going on. So I personally am going to be keeping a very close eye on this. I'm looking at potentially getting into some longs. We will see, but I mean, like we've always seen in the videos, whenever we see the cryptocurrency charts or the liquidation charts looking like this, and there's confluence between all three time time frames, we know which way they're going to go. So overall, that is what I've got for you today. A little bit of a shorter video today. I just wanted to kind of keep you updated with everything that's going on and what this means for altcoins, because again, there's not really a whole lot going on for altcoins until we see some sustained strength from both Bitcoin and then even more sustained strength ideally from Ethereum or things like Solana as well. So that's what we're looking at. If you found the information useful, of course you know what to do. I do really appreciate all of the support, especially in a time like now when altcoins are a little bit less than interesting. It's, you know, obviously a little bit of a difficult time. So would really appreciate any of the support that you offer. And then thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.